Hi students, and welcome to today's live IELTS class. My name is Adrian and I'm streaming to you from beautiful Victoria here on the west coast of Canada. I hope everybody is having a great week, feeling satisfied, fulfilled, and looking forward. Students, in this class we are looking at an IELTS Task 2 writing. I'm going to show you how to plan and start your essay with Band 9. Task 2 writing is 40 minutes of the writing section. The writing section is 1 hour. Task 2 takes up 2/3. It's worth 2/3 of your mark. And it's relatively the same for the academic or the general versions of the IELTS exam. So it doesn't really matter which version you're sitting. This lesson will be very useful for you. You will get a good idea of how to understand, interpret the question, and how to come up with some good ideas for your answer. For those high band scores, you do need to plan your essay well before you start writing. Hi Janil, hi Kyber, hi Irfan, good to see members joining in on the class. This is a members chat class. Everybody's welcome to join. Welcome Carolina, our chat moderator. Hi Aman, I'm doing great. I'm happy you are excited. All right, while we wait for a few more peers to join in, this lesson is presented to you by aehelp.com. For academic IELTS help, visit us on that website. For the general IELTS, check us out at gieltshelp.com. That's generalieltshelp.com. On both of those websites, we help hundreds, if not thousands, of students each and every day. These are a one-time payment for lifetime access. So this is the academic IELTS website here with the blue background. You can click that big red button to join our premium package. For the general IELTS, you're looking for the website with the green background. And again, just click that big red button. As you can see, we are an official British Council IELTS Test Registration Center and certified agents, so you're in great hands with us. We will help you get the score you need from start to finish. All right, everyone. You can download our apps from your app store, Academic IELTS Help or General IELTS Help. Install the app, link it to the website. You can learn from your web account or your app account. They're linked together. So you can basically study IELTS anywhere you are on your mobile when you're out and about or on your computer when you're at home. If you have a question, send me an email to adrian@aehelp.com. I'll be happy to help you. All right. So we've got lots of classes this week. Check the schedule on our YouTube channel. Make sure to subscribe to the channel and get notifications so you know what is happening at what time. All right, let's get into our IELTS Task 2 writing question for today. Here we go. You should take about 40 minutes on this task. Definitely take 40 minutes. It's worth the majority of your writing section mark. Read the question carefully. So step number 1, read the question carefully and paraphrase the question. This isn't to write the introductory paragraph yet. It's just simply to understand the question and collect useful vocabulary that you can apply in your essay. So let's read this question and then let's paraphrase it at home. You should be paraphrasing on paper or on your computer. And in the actual exam, I recommend paraphrasing it as well. In the computer-based exam, it's really useful because you can copy that paraphrase probably into some part of your essay, like the introduction or the conclusion. Okay, so let's do this. Let's read this, okay? Here we go. Many companies are strongly against having personal relationships in the workplace and impose strict policies against it. Do you agree or disagree with this practice? Okay. Include any relevant explanations and examples from your own experience. Write at least 250 words. Okay, think about how to paraphrase that. So think about how you can say that another way. Akshay, I see that you got a good band score, a desired band score. Great job. Okay, good job with that, Akshay. I'm happy that you reached the score that you needed, and good luck with the next steps. All right. Okay, everyone. So again, step 1 is to paraphrase the question. Okay, so step 1. Paraphrase the question using synonyms, antonym plus negatives. So these are just different ways that you can paraphrase. Grammar, description. Okay, there's lots of ways to paraphrase. This will help you to understand the question, think deeply about this idea, and gather some useful vocabulary. Okay, so it helps in a lot of ways to paraphrase this. All right. Okay, Lucas Nitz says, several firms oppose having married couples in their workplace and want to ban it by law. Do you think it is a good idea to ban it or not? Okay, Lucas, not bad. Yeah, it looks good. And yeah, married couples or some kind of love-hate relationships, yeah, possibly. It could be other types of relationships too. I'm not sure. So we have to be careful not to restrict our ideas. So a lot of businesses, that's how I'm going to start. In fact, I'm going to put it a little bit closer to the original question here, just so you can see it. Okay, let me put it in here. All right, so instead of many companies, I'm going to start with a lot of businesses. Okay. All right. So there is my paraphrase of kind of the main sentence. So here's the main sentence. Many companies are strongly against having personal relationships in the workplace and impose strict policies against it. Another way to say that, in my opinion, is a lot of businesses oppose having love relationships in the workplace and in the place of work. Sorry. So instead of workplace, I just split that and put place of work, and create company regulations to dissuade employees from doing this. So policies against it, dissuade as to discourage. Okay. And I feel like it sounds or reads better if I finish this from engaging in such interactions. Okay. All right. And I can see that lots of our members are also coming up with some good paraphrasing now. So let's take a look at that. Okay, so June writes, numerous corporations prohibit their staff from developing personal relationships in their work site, and they enact harsh regulations to eliminate this. Do you think such action is justified? Good, June. Okay, that works. Kyber states, many organizations are forcefully disagreeing with maintaining a private connection in the place of work and commit regulations on this activity and impose regulations to discourage this activity, Kyber, I think would be more natural and accurate. Do you approve or disapprove of this notion? All right, very good. Paulo writes, many corporations forbid their employees to have non-professional bonds with workmates, but some regulations are in place to discourage it. Are you in favor or against this practice? Very nice. Paulo, very nice paraphrasing. So non-professional bonds, sure, that works. All right, Arda, stay as long as you can and just keep studying hard. It's fantastic. Rashika writes, a lot of organizations are imposing anti-personal relationships in the workplace and prohibiting strong rules. And strong rules to prohibit this. Do you accept this or not? Jainil, many organizations are, many organizations make it a strong priority to discourage forming personal connections in the office and put strict regulations and impose consequences on people who do it. Do you support this notion or not? Okay, Jainil, good. I had to do a little bit of correction there, but your idea is right, so your approach is good. Just a little bit of change of grammar and word choice. Amu writes, many organizations restrict their employees from having personal bonds with other employees in the work environment and follow policies to prohibit it. Do you accept or deny such protocol? Amu, very good. I like the word protocol in there as well. Georgian writes, a lot of organizations are against personal relationships at work and impose tougher policies against it and impose tough policies. So Georgian, not a relative because you're not really comparing, just tough policies against it. Okay. All right. So Ankit writes, strict policies have been imposed by many companies as they are strongly against personal relationships in the workplace. Yeah, it's a little bit reversed, Ankit. It's a bit confusing, so careful writing that way. The strict policies have been imposed. What do you mean by that, right? All right. Aman writes, the majority of the associations are strongly opposed to having close relationships in organizations and implement strict rules against employees. That's pretty good, Aman, okay? Many professional associations, okay? I would start it that way. All right, so are you in favor or against this ideology? All right. Yeah, so you always want to finish your complete paraphrase. So you want to pay attention to this. Do you agree or disagree with this practice? Because that gives you the type of question and answer that you need to have for this. Now, with this question, so here we have a do you agree or disagree with this practice? What do you think you should do? Should you A, both agree and disagree? Or B, should you agree or disagree? So let's take a vote on this. What do you think for this type of question? Do you think that you should try to discuss both views and explain to your reader that it's good to have relationships as well as it's bad to have relationships? Or should you just choose one side and say, I completely agree with this or I completely disagree with this? What do you think is going to be the better choice, the better essay, the better argument? Okay. Yeah, Kyber, maintaining, is a good synonym for having. It works in this case. Okay, Amu says both views. Carolina says choose one side. Janil says both. Rashika says choose one side. So it looks like there's a bit of confusion. And June says it should be B because you cannot have both. Yeah. So absolutely, I agree with June here. So in this case, I would definitely go with B. Okay. In this case, it is better to approach this essay as one side supported by two clear points, because logically you cannot have both. Okay, so it just wouldn't work in the real world, right? You couldn't have a company that says, oh yeah, we're supporting personal relationships in the workplace. If you find your significant other, that's fantastic. Oh, by the way, you shouldn't do it. People would be very confused, right? They'd be like, so can we date or no? Or what's going on, right? So logically here, it's either one or the other, okay? So logic dictates it's either one or the other. There's an idiom for this in English. I'm not sure if everybody knows this, but the idiom it goes like this. Yeah, we don't need an exclamation mark. Okay, everybody heard about this idiom? It's a good one. So when you're looking at this type of question, think about this idiom, right? Think if it's applicable or not. Sometimes it's not. Sometimes you can discuss both views. Sometimes you can't. Here, the idiom is you can't have your cake and eat it too. Okay. Does everybody get what that idiom means? Think about like a wedding cake, for example, right? It looks beautiful. It's got a lot of decoration. It's ornate. Maybe you have a wedding cake that's got like multiple layers. It's got the lovely couple on the top. Probably worth a lot of money. And you just want to keep it. You want to put it in your house like a statue. But it's your wedding and people want to eat cake. So you want to eat your cake because that's part of the ceremony. But you kind of want to keep your cake and put it in the living room as a centerpiece. Well, you can't do both, right? You either keep your cake or you eat your cake, but you can't have your cake and eat it too, right? Okay, so that's the idiom that applies in this scenario. You can't have your cake and eat it too. And of course, that's one of the big challenges for humans in many parts of life, is we'd like to have this, but it's just not logical, right? So we have to choose one side. Okay, so in this question, let's identify the topic. What are we actually talking about here? So what is the topic here? Always stop for a second to identify the topic and verbalize it. So explicitly state it in your mind, okay? You should never start writing a full essay or even a paragraph responding to a question without really being clear on exactly what you are writing about, right? Like you need to know, like, what am I discussing here? What are we talking about? Okay. And Carolina says it's personal relationships in companies or in the workplace. Yeah, Amu agrees. Okay, I agree. That's what we're talking about. So we're talking about personal relationships in the workplace. All right, and what's the controlling idea? Yeah, Rashika, you can think about rules for personal relationships in the workplace. Here they're kind of synonyms. So we can kind of choose this as both. So rules for personal relationships in the workplace are simply personal relationships in the workplace, and then put the rules part into the controlling idea. So just like June is saying, so whether or not this should be allowed, yeah, because it makes the same sense. The concept of rule is innate in the controlling idea. So whether or not this should be allowed. Okay, good. So let's do a quick kind of step 3 here. Step 3 is think critically about the topic and controlling idea. Okay, that means ask what, why, how. And I know this is sometimes a bit redundant and arduous, and some people are like, oh, can't I just think about the answer? Like, can't I just be like, yes, they should, or no, they shouldn't? Because you have to be very careful to jump over the critical thinking element of planning, because it's very easy to miss some important ideas that make your essay very good. And if somebody writes at a band 5.5, band 6.5, band 7, 8, 9, how good your ideas are, so how good your thinking and the content, the information for your essay will definitely have a big effect on your mark, because you're being marked on the coherence and cohesion of your essay. And that's coherence and cohesion aren't just about language. It's not just about vocabulary and grammar, but it's really about having good ideas. Okay? So you want to ask what, why, and how about the topic and the controlling idea. Okay? So when you think about the topic, right, the question that comes to mind, okay, so topic again, personal relationships in the workplace. So the first question that would come to my mind is, what is a personal relationship at the workplace? Okay. So what is a personal relationship at the workplace? And how would you answer that? So this is where you'll see very soon that, oh yeah, it is a good idea to think about this a little bit more critically, because I get a lot of ideas. And then some people think, well, if I do this, I'm wasting a lot of time, or this takes so much time. Initially, in the beginning, it does take a bit of time, but then you realize that by doing this, you actually become a much faster author because you have the right ideas for your essay. Okay. Bachrat says, what kind of personal relationship? I would keep it a more simple, Bachrat. So what is? When you think about the what, try to keep it really simple. Usually just try to think about the what is. Welcome back, Rajveer. Okay. So just think about the what is. So what kind of personal relationship to be avoided, Amu? It's too specific. Let's answer this. What is a personal relationship at the workplace? Okay, relationships are quite tricky to define. Answer this for me. So what's a good answer here? Natalie says it means maybe a spouse. I don't know, Natalie. I don't know if it's necessarily a spouse. It could be. If that's your interpretation, then you have to include that in the introductory background. Okay, so Paulo says it could be a romantic relationship. So all right. See, it's not as easy as you think, right? Sometimes it's like, oh, of course, I know what a personal relationship is at work, but do we really know? Like, what's the definition, right? Carolina says some individuals can find marriage or have love relationship through meeting at the workplace? Yeah, maybe, Carolina. Janelle says making personal connections with colleagues like boyfriend, girlfriend, friendship. Okay, Janelle, yeah, that's maybe a stronger definition. So Janelle says forming strong emotional bonds to have boyfriend, girlfriend, friend connections that are not focused on work-related topics. Okay, so lots of ways to define this. Okay. Aman says personal relationships are those when they are informal, but we don't know what that is, Aman. Chintan, that's a very good definition. So Chintan writes, emotional attachment between two employees or between employees, right? It could be more than two, but Chintan, I think that's kind of the closest. So Chintan, if I combine yours with Jainil, then I kind of have the same as myself here, right? Okay. All right. So Rajveer, perfect time to join back, right? We're doing that planning right now, so that should help. So what is a personal relationship? It's a romantic relationship. It's forming strong emotional bonds to have boyfriend, girlfriend, friend connections that are not focused on work-related topics, obviously, right? Okay, what's the next question? So being able to ask questions is a really good idea. So what would be the next question? And when you practice asking questions and giving answers, you quickly start to realize that this can go very smoothly as long as you practice. Okay? So yeah, Rajveer, we've got lots of writing classes this week, so it's the perfect time, as Jainil's saying. Yeah. So what's the next question that I want to ask here? Today I want to focus a little bit on this planning, and then you'll see that the introductory paragraph comes very quickly when you have good planning. Amu says, why personal relationships should be prohibited at the workplace. Amu, you're asking the why question for the controlling idea, not the topic. Okay? It's very important, Amu, to have that separation of what, why, how for the topic versus what, why, how for the controlling idea. Natalie, you're on to the how question. Carolina says, why do people have relationships? Yeah, exactly. Jainil, the same. So why are people making personal relationships at the workplace? Very good. Yeah. B2, welcome to our group of members. Happy to have you on board. Okay. All right. Yeah. So I agree, Jainil. The better question is, why are people prone? Prone here means likely. Okay. It's just a fancy way to say likely. To form personal relationships at work. Okay. Very good. So that would be the question about the topic. Okay. All right. So what's the answer to that? Why are people likely to form personal relationships at the workplace? What do you think? So I'll write an answer for this. You write an answer and then we'll compare. But I think it should be pretty quick, right? So I think a lot of you will come up with the answer here pretty quickly. I think it's fairly straightforward. Okay. All right. Farduus, I'm not sure what you mean by that. They have not a good protectivity. Some of them consider that as a waste of time. I'm not sure what you mean by that. You'll have to rephrase that. Okay. Rafshanara Akhtar, for the course, check out the 30 and 60-day study plan that's included as a PDF to know where to start. Okay. Yeah, Carolina, very good. So Carolina says it has to do with time, right? They spend a lot of time together every day, right? So they spend a lot of time interacting. Yeah. So they spend a lot of time together daily, which facilitates emotional attachment. Facilitates here means creates the opportunity. Okay? So to facilitate means to create opportunity. Okay? So I'm giving you vocabulary and definitions here as we go along, but absolutely, Carolina, it's the time factor, right? So employees spend a lot of time together daily, which facilitates or creates opportunity, emotional attachment. Okay, very good. How does it happen, right? How does this happen? That's usually the how question. When you think about the how question, think about examples. Okay, so this is where it's really important to visualize. Okay, and the answer here could be like, they work on projects together. Their desks are side by side. They talk about personal feelings and asked to go on a date, right? So think about it visually. Okay, you've got, two colleagues, they're working next to each other, they're working on projects together, they have time to talk about their personal feelings, they get to know each other, and then somebody says, hey, would you like to go on a date? And so on. So that's how that personal relationship evolves, right? And then, of course, they interact outside of work as well, and that's very good, Paulo. So Paulo says, they have lunch together, they keep in touch outside of work, right? It's not necessarily true, Paul. I mean, it could be just at work, right? But definitely that's it. All right, now let's do critical thinking for the controlling idea. Okay. All right, so critical thinking for the controlling idea. What are the regulations put into place to discourage personal relationships at work? And this is quick, when you think quick here. So, what do you think? So, if you think about companies, right, and what these regulations are to discourage people from having these personal relationships, what are usually those regulations or those policies? Okay, keep it simple, right? Again, keep it simple. So, Carolina, we don't want to go with why yet. I think you're answering more the why question with the low performance. Okay. Yeah, Amu, very good. So loss of job. Yeah, getting fired, basically, right? Yeah, so that's absolutely it. Usually the policy for those companies that have these policies, they will say that, okay, if you have personal relationships, then one or both of those people will be fired from the workplace. They might get a warning first, and then they might get fired after. But that's just generally the rule, right? They'll be like, if we notice that there's personal relationships being formed and maintained at work, no, Bakrat, I don't think there's salary cuts. Okay, it's not something where the company would just say we'll decrease your pay and continue your relationship. It's more black and white in this case, I believe. So I think companies just simply say, okay, if you decide to do that, you have to find another job, right? Okay. All right, now the why question. So again, students, it's really important to practice this critical thinking, this planning at home. And a couple of the important points, because I'm seeing these mistakes right now in these live classes, okay? So number one, make sure to clearly separate your what, why, how for the topic versus the controlling idea. Okay. The second point where I'm seeing some mistakes in today's class is make sure to clearly separate the what, why, how questions from each other. Because I am seeing a bit of confusion there. So really pay attention to these 2 points when you're practicing at home, because it's going to make a lot clearer of an essay, okay? Everybody picking up on that? So everybody clear on what I'm saying here? When you're practicing your essay writing at home, and this isn't just for high band scores on the IELTS, this is also for your college and university assignments and so forth, and even in your workplace. To communicate much clearer, you have to have clarity in the separation of ideas when you're planning. Otherwise, the confusion will increase in your writing. And to you, it will make sense, but to your reader, they will kind of have to really look hard to figure out what it is that you're trying to say exactly. Okay, so I can see a lot of okays and thumbs up, and that's great. You really want to work on that. That's something that authors can continuously improve on to make their writing clearer. Okay. Okay, so let's get back to this. So the right question here is, why do companies impose regulations to discourage personal relationships? In the office, okay? And continuously paraphrase. So notice how here, instead of saying in the workplace, I wrote in the office, okay? So when you're practicing at home, always paraphrase and think of different ways to write this, because that will continuously expand your vocabulary, your lexical resource, right? So why do companies impose regulations to discourage personal relationships in the office? Okay. June says to make sure employees focus on work itself and contribute more to the company. Yep, absolutely, June. And you're looking at it from the positive perspective, which is very good, to ensure that employees are as efficient as possible with their work-related tasks. And then in brackets, I would say that employees lose focus and become less efficient when they have relationships at work. Okay, sure. Yeah, and June, I agree. So look at it from the positive, right? The company isn't really looking at it from this as much as they're looking at it from this. They want their employees to have maximum productivity, right? You want your employees to produce because they're an investment, right? So for the company's interest, it's not ideal to have employees falling in love and then not focusing on work, right? Fardia says because it's considered respectable and for responsibility. Janelle says distracted. Mal says to encourage professionalism. Yeah. Sure. All right, I think we're still missing one, so really visualize this and think about this, okay? Listen and learn says so that they do not create any problem in the organization. Okay. Paulo says it could be that one of them could deal with sensitive data, so it could be kept confidential. Very good, Paulo. Yeah, so personal relationships at a company could lead to reliability risks as well, or liability risks. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so... Okay, so all of those, yeah, so there's lots of reasons. So to guarantee efficiency, to avoid conflict of interest, if we want to stay on the positive, to maintain integrity, right? Now, suddenly you're starting to realize that, okay, whoa, there's a lot of reasons that a company might impose such rules for their own interest. Now, in the IELTS, you don't have enough time to write about all of these reasons, okay? So if you try to write about all of these reasons, you will run out of time and you're not going to have a clear, detailed essay. So it's very important in the IELTS that you give a good amount of detail and a good amount of explanation. So you don't want to jump around with too many ideas. All right, so... how can this happen? Okay, think again of examples. I'll give you a quick one that comes to mind for me. I'd like you to also think of some examples here, okay? These examples will become very useful for your essay, especially the body paragraphs, okay? So I want you to think of some examples. I'm sure here you can come up with some. Most of us have seen movies or have heard of situations or have maybe even experienced situations that are relevant to this question, okay? I'm going to write one that comes to my mind, okay? So... All right, so based on what some of you said, okay, this is the example that I came up with. Come up with your own original example here, okay? So a lawyer is fired from her, because I've got a his-her confusion here. So let's go to her. Here, okay, there we go. So I changed my gender midway. Here we go. So lawyer is fired from her law firm for having a relationship with her legal aid as she was found sharing sensitive client information. Okay, so here I just created this visual image of this lawyer. She's working for a law firm. She has a personal relationship with her legal aid. She's sharing some sensitive information that's obviously confidential about her clients with the legal aid. That comes to light, that's discovered in the company, and the company says, whoa, before you make our company bankrupt and ruin our reputation, you gotta go. So that's the visual image that I created thinking about this scenario and this situation, and that's really what you want to do, okay? June, very good. So June says a doctor and a nurse are dismissed by the hospital because they develop a love relationship with each other and make mistakes during surgery. Okay, so which leads to malpractice, June. So your idea is really good too. Okay, absolutely. It's definitely a common one. Leads to malpractice. Okay, malpractice is a good word here. It's good vocabulary. It applies here in my example and in your example as well, June. Okay. Okay, Amu, very good. So Amu says in a hospital, nurse is terminated because she is busy talking with colleagues about personal matters and ignores patients calling for help. Okay, the patient got up and had a bad fall. Yeah, absolutely, Amu. Yeah, so in the healthcare industry, this is usually a very strong policy for these reasons. Very good example. Okay. All right. Okay, Chintan Vinay, Ravshonara, yeah, go for it. So create an example. All right, so I'll be looking for those examples. While you do that, I'm going to start my introductory paragraph. So the introductory paragraph for your essay has a hook, has a background, and has a thesis. Okay. Once you have good planning, the introductory paragraph becomes relatively easy. In fact, the whole essay becomes much easier and much more fluid to compose. Okay. So Listen and Learn says HR manager is reprimanded as he is paying more money to his friend than other employees. Yeah, that would work too. So paying your friend more than the standard because they're your friend, right? Or a contract, yeah. Okay, Bakrat, a journalist, is dismissed from a broadcast media company because he's spending most of his time with colleagues and is found being in a love triangle. Very good. Okay, nice. Yeah, so you're getting some good visual imagery there. Okay, the hook. So all right, so I'm going for a little bit of a longer hook here. I'm even including a reason here. So, introductory paragraph. It is common for colleagues to develop personal relationships through their employment because of their frequent time spent together. Okay, so here I'm creating a little bit of a different hook than usual. I'm giving an explanation for why that happens right away with the topic. Okay, making it a little bit longer, but it's definitely interesting in catching the reader's attention, okay? So here we go. Background. All right. So, nevertheless, companies are often in strong opposition to emotionally charged relationships at the workplace and discourage such activity with threats of terminating employment, right? This is all coming from our planning, right? So what I'm doing here Some of you are like, whoa, just kind of putting it out there, right? But it's all coming from the planning that we have done, okay? Kyber writes, maintaining personal relationships is common in most organizations. Okay, Kyber, I like it. It's provocative. I was going to say many, but I think, Kyber, you're onto something because I think in most organizations we will find this, okay? All right. Paulo says, it is not, don't use contractions, Paulo. So it is not a secret that a lot of people develop personal bonds with colleagues at the workplace. I love it, Paulo. I love the use of the word secret in that hook. Okay. Amu, one word, nowadays. One word, nowadays, all one. Okay. So nowadays, it's widely found that many people in organizations tend to develop special relationships as they spend a lot of time at work. Okay, Amu, good. Simplify a bit. Nowadays, one word. Okay. All right. Okay. Harwinder, it is easy to fall for a personal relationship in the employment sector due to much time spent with each other. Good, Harwinder. Very nice. Listen and learn. Many or most. Let me start again. Listen and learn. So most employees form relationships with each other due to their shared environment. Okay, listen and learn. Not same environment, but shared environment. I like it. Okay. All right. So here is my thesis statement. Okay. I agree that for the interest of business, personal relationships should be regulated by policy as companies must maintain efficiency and reputation. Okay. So clearly we can see that my essay is going to focus on the agreement with such policies for having efficiency and the agreement of such policies for maintaining reputation. These 2 points are now also coming from my planning and from visualizing that situation with the lawyers, with the doctors that some of you mentioned at the hospital. Okay, so good. I think everybody's got the idea now. And again, to develop introductory paragraphs of this level or of this caliber, you have to practice planning your essays, especially before you sit the IELTS exam, so that when you get to your test and you read that task 2 question, you can identify the topic, identify the controlling idea, think about each of those critically, come up with good ideas, good visualizations, and then come up with a solid introduction. So here we go. It is common for colleagues to develop personal relationships through their employment because of their frequent time spent together. Nevertheless, companies are often in strong opposition to emotionally charged relationships at the workplace and discourage such activity with threats of terminating employment. I agree that for the interest of business, personal relationships should be regulated by policy as companies must maintain efficiency and reputation. Now, when I read that, it reads well. I've got personal relationships kind of repeating a few times. So here during the exam, I would probably change that with the word relationships to bonds. And maybe this one to connections. Okay. Just so it doesn't read so repetitive. Okay. Otherwise, I'm happy with it. It looks good. And now I'm ready to continue on with the body paragraphs and then, of course, the conclusion. So that's it for today, everyone. Again, practice this. Okay, so Rajveer, over the next few days, make sure to practice this at home, planning your essay so that you can do this quickly and you can do a lot of this in your head during the actual exam. In the actual exam, you only have about 3-4 minutes for this whole planning process. But notice that when you have it, the introductory paragraph only takes a couple minutes to write. Okay. All right. That's it for this class, everyone. We will finish this essay tomorrow. And I do see that there's some good writing for the thesis, June, for the background, Paulo. That's looking good. Okay, Kyber, the background's looking good there as well. All right, so keep it up. We'll go over the introductory paragraphs again tomorrow. So think about them, make adjustments, revise them, and then we'll review them tomorrow and then continue with the rest of the essay. Okay, so Bakrat, bring that thesis statement tomorrow as well. Carolina, thank you for moderating the chat and for the contribution. Thank you, members, for your support. I'll be back in 30 minutes with General IELTS Task 1, Informal Letter Writing. Okay, that's coming up next. For everybody who's watching, check us out at aehelp.com for academic IELTS, glshelp.com for general IELTS. Lots of HD high-quality videos there to help your learning. Much love back to you, Kabul, Khyber in Kabul. All right, that's it for now. I will see you soon. Bye.